I found in the biofile a picture of a dead man, and I was like, that's weird. I haven't seen that in an archive before.
So she took me down and showed me the notebooks. This is January 2015. And I got all excited. It's like, we have to look at these.
For 15 years, he's been in charge of the government's crime laboratory at the National Bureau of Standards. This laboratory has foreshadowed that of the Department of Justice's G-Men. It is the first experimental laboratory set up for the exclusive use of government departments in crime research.
People ask, is Souder the father of forensic science? I say no, but he may be classified as the father of federal forensic science because he did have a role setting up the FBI lab, the Postal Service lab, and other labs like that. He wants to make sure there's good scientific underpinning for what he's doing before he ever takes a step into the world of making those measurements that are going to impact somebody's life and liberty. We were shocked to find out that he had done over 800 cases that he documented in his notebooks for about 80 different agencies, federal agencies he did work for. He was actually the president in 1940 of the International Association of Dental Research, which is pretty impressive to do that. At the same time, he's doing forensic cases. So you can go back and look here. At that time, he did 44 in 1941. 47 cases we have. The fact that he could spend enough time to make a difference on an international level for dental research, helping with dental fillings and things like that, and still have that same, larger impact in forensic science, that was mind-boggling. That he had done that level of work until we actually started analyzing those notebooks. But we didn't know there's these numbers they're like 64487, and so we don't. What is that number? So I started contacting colleagues at the FBI, and because this particular entry that's shown here is for the Department of Justice. And so I contacted colleagues at the FBI and said, does this number make any sense to you? And they responded, no.
We just couldn't crack it. It was really confusing. And come to find out it was our own numbering system. It really was the link to matching the notebooks up with things in the archives. So we went and accessed them. And I saw negatives transferred. I think it was from 1902 until the 70s. My heart just started beating quickly because they said, yes, we still have this collection. In fact, we're thinking about transferring them off-site because nobody uses them. A lot of our pictures on the back have a number that's printed on them, and there's a log. And so reading the logs tells you what the picture is. And then you can use the notebooks to link back with those as well. And so the connections started happening.
There's one other notebook we don't have on his work with the Charles Lindbergh baby kidnapping case. He called that case the Adamson case as kind of a code name, and that notebook was kept separate. One of the things we did is then start reaching out to other archivists, so any other people we could talk to. So a guy named Mark Falzini, who's the archivist for the New Jersey State Police, went through their entire archives. I said, can you find anything on Wilmer Souder? Because we're interested in researching this guy. We know he did something with the Lindbergh case, but we don't know what. So he sent us back the transcript of Souder's testimony, which is 36 pages long from the Lindbergh trial. So he testified on the 16th of January, 1935, in the Lindbergh case.
Century continues at Flemington, New Jersey, with faces, grim faces, questioning faces, serious faces filling the courtroom. The court reporter and his assistants take down every word of the proceedings by machine. Hauptmann talking things over with his wife. Edward J. Riley, Chief Defense Counsel.
How many documents did you examine altogether, including the ransom notes and the request writings?
I estimate the number at 8,000.
In this case, I mean.
In this case.
8,000?
In this case, 8,000 or more.
Souder was involved in picking the people that were involved and doing the handwriting analysis. And that's evident in some of the memos that are revealed. So again, we have a much larger role in the Lindbergh case than's ever been revealed in history before. We tracked down his granddaughter in July of last year, 2015. Kathy Leeser is her name.
Finding her was John's brilliant move. She sent a number of materials that we hadn't seen before, and we actually added them to the archive collection here. Everything from conference proceedings that he was a part of to photographs, even some from the family, documents and letters that have to do with the appreciation of the work that he's done. But it's interesting because it's curated by him, right? It's just he's telling us, this is my greatest accomplishment. I don't think she even realized how deep his research went and how involved he was in various different aspects of the field. And to be able to have her hold in her hands his notebooks, I think it was powerful for me to watch that. I hope it was for her too.
This is the closest I've ever been to crime scene tape, and it's about as close as I ever want to get. He was not someone to talk about his work, and whether that was a function of concerns about security and safety. Some of it was a desire, I think, to separate family from work. And some of it was he was just not someone to talk about himself much.
She says, he had all these records organized in his attic. And he says, my mother threw it all away after he passed away in 1974 because we didn't know where to store it all. I was like, oh! In the move from one point to another, things just get tossed. And in hindsight, you go, oh, I can't believe we gave that away. It's just that personal realizing how much stuff was in there, of details of how he did his work, details of the cases, the follow-up on, his testimony that he would have had. Did he have transcripts in there of his testimony? Are there other things we could understand better of who he was as an individual? And so all of those things are lost to history. And to me, that's just heart-rending when you realize that. And also to realize in 1944 that National Archives threw out most of the memos and early records from the Bureau of Standards. So there's things that are lost to history that we can't ever recover fully.
I actually think it's one of the saddest things to find out when records get destroyed. Knowing, working with an archive, you have to change and lead the collection. That's part of your job. You can't keep everything. But I don't know who signed the slip to destroy specifically our test records, a good majority of them. And they downsampled that entire collection down to one box of test reports, none of which are Souder's.
And so fortunately, Kathy had kept a few things. This is my favorite thing in the entire 1951 Reader's Digest. And there's an article in here on page 118.
Did he write it? Or someone wrote it?
It's called Washington's Detective X. So, and it tells story after story.
No one else can solve a mystery, government heads put in a call for Dr. Souder.
I think that tells a lot about him as Detective X, behind the scenes, someone who's playing a role but not glorying in the moment of the limelight of all of that. What would I ask Souder if I had a chance to ask him today? A simple question. I'd say, kind of, how did you get started in this area? And what impact do you think you've had? And I think I would be curious to see his reaction to that.
I don't think my grandfather thought of himself as anybody special. I think he was very dedicated to his work. I think he wanted to do a good job. He wanted to excel. He wanted to make sure that anything he put his name on was as close to perfect as he could make it.